This call is now being recorded.
So, welcome to the ninth session of this series, which is IBL. IBL stands for Inquiry Based Learning. And I started this series after the latest NEP and NCF. It came out, and I realized that most of the things that we have been doing for many years in progressive schools, now it has come very directly in the national framework. So I thought let's do a series to kind of recap what all should be there in our classrooms. And it's also making the entire maths program or any education program mapping to IB. These are the strategies which also are used in IB. And I think any progressive school anywhere in the world will have these strategies working. So the way this session will run is I will start. My webinars are never one-sided. So I will pause frequently, ask you questions. I will also ask you to maybe give you something to think and give you some task that you need to do. And you're most welcome to participate, share. And at the end of it, I will give you the resources which I have already promised. So, starting with inquiry-based learning, it is what is inquiry? So, inquiry is like a beautiful word, which, if you have heard of the philosopher, guru, and teacher Jiddu Krishnamurti, he has used a lot in his teachings that all of life is actually an inquiry. But what we are looking at here is how can we bring this sense of inquiry, or rather being a detective, in the maths classes. So here I would bring from some definitions. Inquiry maths is a model of learning that encourages students to regulate their own activity while exploring a prompt. So, for example, I give an equation to students for the first time in their life. They have an equation, and I ask them to solve it. So, and I just a second. Meera Didi, can you go on mute?
Okay, why?
Yeah, because
Am I
there's a
making those?
background noise is coming. If you go on mute, you can hear me, but we won't hear your. Thank you. So if you want to anytime speak, please unmute and speak. So coming back to this, so for example, children haven't done solving of any equations in their life. So I give them an equation and I say that, okay, see how would you solve it? Let's say 3x plus 7 equal to 9x. And children get into groups and they use a lot of trial and error, they pass knowledge, whatever it is that they know, and they try and solve it. So children are exploring how to do something, and in that process I have created space for them to think for themselves. And what is the teacher doing? The teacher is questioning, the teacher is asking, what is it that you're doing here? Why did you use this method? How did you come to the conclusion? So this is what inquiries involve: questioning, conjecturing, generalizing, listening. So as the child is explaining, the teacher is listening. So it's that space. So basically it has three steps. First, throw a prompt or a question at the children and tell them, try it yourself. Part two, as the children are trying it themselves, the teacher is going around asking the groups, why did you use this method? What did you do? So the teacher is doing a lot of questioning. And then the final step, when the teacher brings back the class and says, okay, this is what we have discovered today. To solve this equation, these are the steps we do. So it's like a 3-act play, or I would say 3 sections of a classroom. So just to give you a bit of background, the person who started talking about it was Pollard, very, very respected mathematician. And he felt that instead of making a maths class very linear, where A and then B and then C, make it a little exploratory. where children are exploring and we don't really know whether maybe first child can go from A to B, second child can go from A to C, third child can go from A to maybe alpha. So giving that space in the class is what inquiry is. If anyone has a question, you can ask or you can put it in the chat box for the definition of inquiry. So I am now bringing to you a model which is used to build lesson plans and also to design classes. It's called 5E model. It's not very unusual. I think any good teacher would be using this flow in the class to teach. First, give the students a challenging situation or a thought. For example, why are we doing addition? Why are we learning about quadratic equation? So, or how do you solve? Okay, you know how to solve 2x plus 7 equal to 3. How will you solve 2x square plus 7 equal to 3? So give them a challenge. So they are mentally engaged. They are focused. How do I solve this? Second, give them some space to explore. So the children are working in groups by and large, and they are discussing with each other, how do we solve this? Third, allow children to explain. I did this way. I did this way. Fourth is optional. If the class is very bright or the children are very bright, give them something extra. Give them a new situation. And finally, evaluate, where the teacher checks in the end, has the class or has the student understood or not understood. So one question from everyone here: isn't this normally how any good class runs? You first engage the child, you give children some work to do on their own, then you let them explain, then you stretch their thinking if they are very bright, and then finally you do a bit of evaluation by reflection, by giving them homework, by doing a little bit of a test. So thank you, Meena ma'am. Anyone else would like to say, isn't this how any normal class runs? Anyone would like to say? So any normal class runs in this way, but if you keep it in front of you as a model, I need to build a lesson. How can I engage the children better? It's tomorrow is my class in, let's say, a very boring topic called binomial theorem, or I need to start negative integers tomorrow. How do I engage the children? How do I grab their attention? And for teachers of Sri Aurobindo School here, this is the question: how do I get their vital, their emotional, and their mind to get caught, hook them, so that they are all attentive? So that is what the first stage is. And I do think, with all years of experience, that this is generally the flow good teachers take. And this was given by the person, Bybee and Landis in 90. So I would say 5E model has, as I shared just now, 3 stages. One, as any classroom has 3 stages: beginning, middle, end. Beginning of the class is when you engage the child. Middle of the class is when you do explore, explain, evaluate. And then finally, I think there's an error here. So this is where you do elaborate. I'm so sorry for this. And then finally, you evaluate the class. So normally, there are these 3 sections to any classroom, and the 5E model fits here. Now, at this point, I am putting a link in the chat box, which takes you to a poster. And that poster gives you the 5E steps, some description, and some ideas. So you can download that, and I will give you 1 minute to just go through it. And if you have any comments or any questions, or if you want to put up any emojis like Meena ma'am did just now, you please feel free. These are the various tools of communication. So you would have seen 5E model math lesson poster. First, engage. In description, it gives how can you do this? And then it is giving activity ideas.
It means it can be an introduction to the class.
Absolutely. Introduction to the class. Thanks, Malay. I found this poster very, very helpful in kind of capturing the whole idea of 5E. And in activity ideas, it has given engage can be using a short game, connection to previous concept. It can also be I'm recapping the previous concept, I'm having a quiz. Exploration generally is a cooperative learning task. Explain is when you just have to get the children to talk about what they are doing. Elaborate is when something harder is given. And finally, evaluate. And evaluation has so many ways: exit ticket, performance task, anecdote, journal, traditional worksheet, everything is there. Any response on this poster via your emojis? Thank you. Thank you, Meena ji. So this is a very handy tool to keep with you whenever you are building a class, and keep this poster in front of you and like, okay, can I use this? Can I use this? What is it that I can use to build the classes? So using this poster, I will also show you now 2 lesson plans. I'm putting them in the chat box, which were built by teachers in Nagaland. And you can see how the 5E model is used. This is just a sample for you. You don't have to take it like this is exactly how it should be. Again, giving you just 30 seconds to just explore. You can look at it in detail later or ask questions later. So 2 lesson plans are given here, model lesson plans. One is on profit and loss, and the other is on measurement. SCRT Kohima is where this was built. This is just to show you that 5E can be used in the classes to think, but it can also be, you can also start it with lesson plan. So that is. So now I will show you a short video of teachers of USA who brought inquiry, questioning. There are various words used: inquiry, questioning, involving children. And after they tried these strategies, what is it that they say? And at the end of it, or while watching it, if there is anything that strikes you that I really like this, please put your thoughts in the chat box. Can you hear the video?
No, Didi, no voice.
There's no sound?
No, ma'am.
Just a sec. Yeah, now.
Between the population and mathematics. And we want every student to experience mathematics as something of theirs that gives them the power to think in ways they wouldn't otherwise think.
All right, Trizelle, so do you think that's a function or not?
We need to value kids asking questions and saying when they're not sure and saying when they're wrong. It's not just reviewing stuff kids should know. It's giving them repeated opportunities to make sense of what we're asking if kids should know.
So can you tell me which stage of 5E is happening here? Is it engage, explore, explain?
I think explanation is there, Didi.
Yeah.
The group they have to explain.
Yes,
Okay.
the group is discussing.
It's giving them repeated opportunities to make sense of what we're asking them to learn and see the connections among topics.
What is number 5 doing?
It's quadratic. It's quadratic. You've got x squared plus 8.
What about here? Malay? Any idea?
Exploration. Explore.
Yes, yes. Same. Explore, explain, both.
X.
There's one thing that I'm often saying, we're here to ask questions, we're here to find things out.
When there's lots of uncertainty, that's what mathematical discourse sounds like. That's what productive discourse sounds like.
For the acceleration vector, did you guys simplify?
Would you be willing to talk about what you tried and how you know it didn't work?
Okay. Now what's happening? Which E is this?
I really want students to be comfortable.
Can anyone guess which one was it when the teacher is leading?
Engagement.
Engage. Absolutely. So when the teacher is leading, either it would be engagement or it would be evaluation.
We want students to be comfortable not knowing things.
I have a question because when you add in the horizontal asymptote, then the curve can't go upward for infinity. So does it start curving this way, or? No.
Everyone feels comfortable and everyone feels like even if they say the wrong answer or they get something wrong, they're not going to be discouraged.
Questions are a way for the students to either solidify their understanding, to convince themselves of their own understanding and be confident with their understanding, or conversely, to find out that maybe they don't quite understand it.
It's about demystifying the process of being wrong.
And it would be plus, right?
Yeah, because it's moving to the...
I want to make sure that the kids in my class are wrong frequently, because otherwise I'm not challenging enough, I think. And secondly, because if they're not wrong frequently, then the few times when kids are wrong, it might feel like their dirty little secret.
Solving some equations. The kind of culture I'm hoping to create is a culture where students have a strong ownership of the classroom and of the mathematics.
I really like this math class compared to my other math classes last year. She loves to keep us involved. It's really energetic.
Do you have a brave volunteer to talk about what felt funny or wrong or strange? Amanda?
Yeah. Now what was happening? I'll just run it again.
Involved. It's really energetic.
Do you have a brave volunteer to talk about what felt funny or wrong or strange? Amanda?
Yeah. She asked, is there any volunteer to explain what felt wrong or funny in the answer? So what's happening here? Which E is it? Any guesses?
Is it the fourth one, Didi?
Yes, it can be the fourth where she is elaborating or she is extending, or it can also be evaluate where she is doing an informal formative, checking what the answers are coming.
1 point on the
So it's like an error analysis that she's doing.
x-axis. There was like 2. It shared one. It was weird. Yeah.
So basically, the 5 E's run so enmeshed with each other that I think among you teachers, I'm pretty sure some of you might be thinking, but I was already doing it in my classes. I just didn't know this was 5E. So the advantage of learning that this is a model called 5E is that you do it consciously, and also then you start adding variety as there are so many ideas given on the poster that I gave you. Any questions, please put them in the chat box and I'll get to them, or any comments, any questions or any comments.
Is it then how to do the evaluation part? Is it a written or just we have to take the in a discussion mode?
Okay.
And how to keep the record of that evaluation?
Okay, great question. So evaluation can be a traditional worksheet with maybe 2 to 3 questions or 5 depending on the topic. And then the record becomes the worksheet. If it is a printed worksheet, their notebook. This is a traditional evaluation. Evaluation can also be a quiz which you conduct in the class as you want to just check whether children have learned or not learned. And then your record will be anecdotal or it will be observational. It would not be a formal. You can also give them a problem, one problem, and say, I want you to solve this one problem at home based on what you have learned or in the class. Then again, the record becomes the student's work. You can also ask them to simply write a journal. What did we learn today? And what do you think? What do you feel? And children can just write and explain. You can also do something called as an exit ticket, where as the children go out of the class, there is a question. They have to solve it on a sheet of paper and write their name and drop it in a box. That's what's called an exit ticket. It's quite a fun thing to do. So these. Does that answer your question, Malay?
Yes, it means the evaluation should be not in a group. It should be in a individual student.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. Absolutely. Otherwise, we will not know individually what children have learned. So in the class, you have part of the class the teacher directed, part of the class they worked in group. But now I want to know how much have the children learned. So what I used to do when I used to teach is to keep the last 5 minutes for evaluation. And sometimes I gave them, depending on the concept, 3 questions or 4 questions or 1 question. Sometimes if I felt the topic was very hard, then I would give them a journal. What did you learn today? And explain to someone what you learned today. For example, you've just learned how to add decimals with regrouping. So explain in English, in your own words, in English or Hindi or whichever language they are in, how do you add 2 decimals? So it was always an individual task. And if the class is bored or something, I would have a quiz and then I would quickly take notes. But by and large, have it individual, not in a group. So thanks for asking that, Malay. So 5E in action. The first is, yes, somebody raised hand, Meena ji.
Ma'am, can you please share the link of that video?
So at the end of this, I'm going to be sharing a PDF of this PPT itself in the chat group, and all the links will be there.
Okay, thank you.
Everything, so you don't have to worry. So the most important part of a class, according to 5E model, is the first one, engage. So if you don't get the kids, if you don't catch the kids during the engagement, and please have the link is in the chat box of a task of this prompt that this, for example, this is something you can do now. Think about it. So let's say I give children this question and I ask, is this always true, sometimes true, or never true? What would be your answer? That 4 square minus 3 square is equal to 4 plus 3. Is it always true, sometimes true, or never true? Always true in the sense, can I take any 2 numbers and a square minus b square will be a plus b? Or is it only sometimes? Would anyone like to try this out? Maths teachers?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes. So can you give me an example when it is not true?
If it is 5 and 3, then it will not be true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in this case, 4 and 3, the difference is 1. It is true. If it is difference is more than 1, it is not true. So this is an example of engaging the children. And this task is by a teacher called Daniel Walker. And I have already, I think, in the given you in the link that he's an A-level, that is a UK teacher. So this is by the teacher. And so this is the kind of prompt that can be thrown and have a quick discussion. When is it true? Engage need not be so long that half the lesson goes into it. It should be a very quick discussion to get the children, the brain to wake up. That is the objective of engage. And for all the emotions to be concentrated and be excited, I'm going to learn something new. And engage can also lead to, can you find more examples? Can you work with another child and do this? Can you maybe try this using a procedure? Can I explain? So these are the various ways you can follow up on engage if you have time in the class, or if you want to. If your class, you feel the class is very involved and I would like to take it forward, you can just ask the children, okay, I'll give you one example. Can you give me another example? Or can a child explain? Or what is the aim of this? Why are we doing this? Always, sometimes, never. So something like this can follow up, and that makes the engage part much more rich. So that is the follow-up of engage. I'm giving you some ideas for prompts, and as with every resource on this PPT, I will be giving you the PDF, and the links would be there, so you don't have to be like, I mean, you can focus fully on the session. What topic do you think this works? If you know, a child may say, if 6 plus 4 equal to 7 plus 3, is 6 minus 4 also equal to 7 minus 3? Which concept can this be used?
Number system properties,
Number
commutative
system
property or
property.
not.
Absolutely. Now, I may throw this challenge at the children. Do you know, if you take any quadrilateral and join the midpoints, you get a parallelogram. And then I want them to test it out. So different children will draw different types of quadrilateral. So it's like an open-ended question. I can also say, do you know median is greater than mode is greater than mean is greater than range? This is not possible. That you just cannot have a set of data that satisfies this. And tell them, I have 5 minutes for you to test it out. Is this always true? Sometimes true? Never true. If you remember these 3 words, these are amazing to make questions. Always true. For example, an even number is divisible by 2. Is it always true? Sometimes true? Never true. So with these prompts, these 3 questions can be asked. Now, for all of you, another question. If you see this box, 4 going to 7, 4 going to 12, 4 going to 21, which concept can this prompt lead to? 4, 7, 12, 21. Any idea, middle school teachers? See, 4, 12, 7, 21. What's the relationship?
Is it operation, Didi?
Think again. If 4 is going to 12, sorry?
Thrice.
Thrice. So if 4 is thrice of 4 is 12, then why have I taken 7 and 21 here? Thrice of 7 is 21, ratio and proportion. So I can ask the children, what is the relationship between 4, 12, 7, 21? Now, what is the relation? Is there a relationship between 4, 7, 12, 21 also? Is there a relationship between 421 and anything else? So 412 and 421. So I'm throwing them several questions, and then they are discovering that relationship is there in 4, 12, 7, 21 and 4, 7, 12, 21. And then we can say when these two are equal, that's a proportion. So this is another idea for a prompt. Finally, I can always ask them, can you tell me what I can use the last one as? 1 upon 4 into 8 upon 5 is equal to 18 upon 45. Anyone?
9. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please. You were saying something, Deepa?
No, it's wrong multiplication, no?
Yes, so this is an error analysis. So this again goes, is this always true, sometimes true, never true? Is it that when I multiply fractions, I will just take numerator, make a number, denominator, make a number? So the answer is it's never true. So how do you know it's never true? Can you prove this? So that becomes an idea for a prompt. So this is what engages. By and large, if you're good at throwing a good engagement at the kids, the class would be focused. So here is my question. What is the one new thing that you have learned so far? You can put your answer in the chat box or speak up. Is there any new thing that you have learned so far?
How to engage the whole class.
Okay.
To concentrate on the concerned topic or any topic.
Yeah, great. Would anyone else like to say? Thank you, Malay. Meena ma'am, your hand is raised. Do you want to say something?
Sorry, ma'am, it was earlier one.
Okay.
But definitely ways how.
Your voice is cracking. Yeah,
Ma'am, I
Deepa.
want to say something. Evaluation can be more interesting, like you have suggested exit tickets. That
Yes,
was a good
yes,
idea.
yes. And exit tickets, you can Google on internet, exit ticket in maths. You'll get tons and tons of ideas. But it can be simply that I'm giving a question, take a slip of paper, solve it, write your name and drop it in this box. So that's your exit visa from the class. So now, in
And
an,
prompting question is very interesting, Didi. These are really good questions, and this helps to students think.
yes, exactly. Thanks, Bhojraj. Thank you so much. Now, in an inquiry-based classroom, assessment, like Malay had asked, how do we keep record? How do we evaluate? How do we assess? It's an important part. So I'll just spend a few minutes here. Assessment can be in inquiry. When children are exploring, explaining, you can go around and ask, what are you doing? If you remember these three, what, why, how. What are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? How did you get the answer? You can also ask, are you sure your answer? How do you know your answer is correct? What, why, how should be like three things in every teacher's pocket when the children are working. So you can ask them questions. This is assessment during inquiry when the children are busy in exploring. Assessment as the end of the inquiry can be when the children are coming nearly to the end presentation. That is, the children are explaining their work. Assessment absolutely at the end of the inquiry is, as I have shared with you, journal can be one, but there can be exit tickets and so many other things. So think of assessment in three parts. Assessment in, assessment as the end, which is almost the explanation, elaborate phase, and assessment absolutely after the lesson is almost over. These are the three parts of assessment. Malay, that answers your question which you had asked about assessment?
Yes, Didi.
Yeah. So this is informal. What are you doing? Why did you do it? How will you do? Presentations, that can be a little formal. Teacher can say, okay, each group will explain how they did it, and I'm going to give you scores or grade based on this. Assessment can be completely formal at the end of inquiry, where you can have journal or one question. So classroom structure for an inquiry-based lesson cannot be completely teacher-driven. So you need start with the teacher. The teacher throws the prompt. Middle, it can be again led by teacher, children. So it's like I do, we do, you do. End should be the teacher is summing up the class completely. After evaluation, the teacher sums up the class. It can be before or after, that's up to you. But generally, one sees inquiry lesson starts with the teacher. So you start like I do, you all do it together, we do, everything happens, and then it ends with again I do. If you have heard of I do, we do, you do. So it ends with I do, where the teacher needs to sum up. Today we learned this. And so the whole class comes back together. The class can also come back together. You have given an evaluation question. At the end of it, you can discuss how to solve that question. So being an ex-teacher, I know there is nothing like an ideal classroom. So your inquiry class might be start with the teacher, move to teacher and students, and that's it, the bell rings. So that's also okay. But if you have enough space, like one of those golden moments when everything went perfectly in the class, no child fought, nobody's textbook was lost, then ideally start with the teacher, open up the space, end with the teacher. So that's like a complete three types of classroom structure, or I would say 3 steps of a classroom structure. That is what is recommended in inquiry. Now, I'm very curious here. Has anyone tried this? Would anyone like to share? I have tried this, and what was your experience? Okay, so I am going to show you a senior school classroom, and please tell me which structure is this? Is this I do, that is teacher is completely leading, we do, that is teacher and children are having a discussion, or you do, where children are all working on their own?
Okay. Well, let's take a look.
Because. All right, guys, go ahead and have a seat. All right, Kate, so walk us through what you're thinking.
Okay. So, just as a diagram, this is the rope. When it's hanging down to the floor, it just barely reaches the floor. This is it when it's touching the wall. It's 3 inches above the floor, and it's 4 feet from the wall when it's hanging. And I didn't really know where to go from here, but I was thinking that you could do something like this. But I couldn't figure out how to find the slope of this line or how to find like this actual triangle. So any help would be really great.
I think I've got it.
Okay.
So your diagram's awesome. I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Whenever you're dealing with things where you're going to be talking about things in inches and then things in feet, just make sure that you're consistent.
Yeah, okay.
So what do you want to change? Do you want to change the 3 to a fraction or the 4 to a 48?
I'll change the 3 to a fraction. Actually, no, I think 48 would just be easier. Okay. Miles, do you want to come?
Yeah. Would anyone like to try? What is happening here? Is it I do, the teacher is completely in charge? Is it we do, teacher and children are working together? Or is it you do, children are working on their own?
I think first the teacher is explaining the concept. I do part.
Okay. And then?
We do is also happening over there.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we do is also happening. And
Yeah.
but there is no you do happening.
Come up here and grab a marker.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought of this, but
The teacher is actually standing at the back of the class, and he's only engaging in between.
If you say that whole side is x, then the height we're looking for is to here, so that's x minus 3.
So we're looking at your diagram, and the thing that you notice about the isosceles part of it, focus on that.
Okay. So
I'll pause here. It's an amazing class. When I send you the resource, then please have a look at the video. And now look at this structure. This is completely different. It's a middle school classroom. Thank you, Nia ma'am. It's a middle school classroom. So being a very pure middle school person, I have taught like grades 4 to 12, but middle school is where my heart is. So you can see a very different perspective here. And please again see, is it I do, we do, you do it together, you do it alone? What's happening here?
Bring it back in 3, 2, 1, 0. Number 1.
What she just did, it's called attention grabber. She wants the kids to pay attention.
1, I want you to be coming up with a conjecture. And number 2, I want you to be coming up with a reasoning or justification for why. Now, how are we figuring out what this conjecture is about? I want you to think about the 3 problems that you just solved, as well as the number of sentences that you've created to go along with them. And if you look at your pages right now, the last bulleted question says, do answers always get bigger when you multiply or smaller when you divide? Why or why not? Your conjecture is going to be based off of this statement, and you're going to use the problems that you just solved as well as your number sentences to help you figure that out. When I say go, you can get started with your table groups in trying to figure out that conjecture. Is that always true or is it not?
Okay, so what happened just now? What did she do? Which E is it? And is it I do, we do, you do? What happened just now?
This is the first E, I think.
This is the first E.
Yeah.
Just through a prompt,
Through the
and
prompt,
the teacher
yeah.
was in charge. Yeah. Now let's see what happens.
Do you have another example without using 1? Because you know when you multiply and divide by 1, you're always going to get that same number.
4 times 1/2.
What's 4 times 1/2? Which is what?
2.
That's a great example. You could use that.
Okay, so we could draw y.
What's your conjecture?
When you multiply a whole number by a fraction where the numerator is less than the denominator, the product will always be smaller than the whole number.
Okay, where's your example in reasoning? I need you to prove it.
So what's happening here?
You do together.
You do, and among the
Together.
E's, which E is this?
They're exploring.
The student they are explaining the concept.
Explaining generally goes hand in hand. So she's just going and asking questions. What did you do here? Why did you do here? And then maybe you can try another example. So this is what is also called as facilitation of a class.
Voices off! Drop everything! So, who can remind
And now what did she do?
me, what is a gallery walk, Josangeli?
Yeah. Now what did she do? She brought the kids back. So she started with I do, we do, you do it together. And now she's bringing everybody's attention back to herself. Evaluation here will be gallery walk, where kids will put up their work on the walls or the cupboards and other kids will comment. So just have a look.
Gallery walk is when
I am sorry for interrupting the video again and again, but I really want you to not miss the highlights of this lesson.
different groups make posters. We go around and put post-its and tell the group what was good about their poster and what needs to improve.
What warms my heart whenever I look this video, if you haven't noticed, this is a class of special children. And if you haven't noticed the way they are speaking or the body language and the way she is making them think and work extensively.
Okay, can someone remind us, what was our goal for the next time that we did a gallery walk?
Don't always write that someone is not being neat.
We need to make sure that we're being specific. What else? Michelle?
We have to actually tell them what's good about their work and things that they could work on the math or the explanation.
Okay, we are going to have...
So here is another great idea for evaluation. Everybody, if they worked on a chart paper, puts it up on the walls and other teams go. And before gallery walk, she has set the tone, write only what is good about the other person's work. I think Malay is definitely going to try this, right?
Yes, they do.
The work on the walls.
Yeah, I have already give the prompt to the student in today's class only. When I'm starting the data handling in class 7th.
Okay.
Then it will be the better idea that we can put the chart in the gallery.
Data handling would be great. And I'm pretty sure some of you other teachers of your school also will try this. Bhojraj, Deepa. So this is how it ends. I'm skipping this with structure. It's an online class. It's generally, again, I do, we do. In the interest of time, you can have a look at it later. Just ending with a lady who has given so much about inquiry that I think finally, if you really want to practice the inquiry-based teaching in a class, I need to know as a teacher, I need to be humble enough to know what is the personality that allows kids to explore. A lot of teachers cannot step away from I do. They are like, I'm the boss of the class. So what is it that a teacher should do? So here's a short clipping and it's pretty much the end of the session. I would only like you to be a bit reflective right now and match. She's going to give you so many qualities. Which ones do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I have 1, I have 3, I have 6. 2 is something interesting. I don't have it, and let me work at it. So that is what my suggestion to you would be to do with Pat. Her name is Pat.
I think one of the key differences that make an inquiry teacher what they are is their the way of seeing the student, actually, that they see the student first and foremost as a competent, capable, curious, almost partner in learning. So they see the light in each child. They find it, they find what it is that makes that student intrigued and interested, and there's always something in everyone. Inquiry teachers ask more than they tell. They do tell, but their dominant way of working with students is through questions and through the right kinds of questions. So they know how to scaffold. There's a kind of image of the inquiry teacher as this kind of laissez-faire, hands-off teacher that simply lets the kids do what they want. That's been a very persistent image. And it comes from some poor iterations of inquiry. But in fact, the opposite is true of the best inquiry teachers I know. They are teachers that know how to sit with the student, to carefully scaffold. They know their curriculum so well that they can move with the students' interests in order to come to that curriculum. They have a very strong repertoire of strategies and approaches. I mean, in some ways, when you think about teachers that might rely on a textbook to do the work for them, or that, and I still see it, that simply give kids worksheets to fill in, surely that is abdicating responsibility. Maybe it would be even better for those kids if they were able to just go in to find out what they wanted to find out. I think what inquiry teachers do differently is that they're prepared to share the journey with their students. They're prepared to say the important words, I don't know. I wonder how we might find out. They are not simply a kind of passive guide on the side, as they're often described. They're very much in the centre. They're alongside the student. They are highly sophisticated practitioners. They know where it is. They're wanting to take their students at a big picture level, but they work often with the interests, the questions that the student brings to the learning in order to take them further. They listen, they observe, and they respond to what students reveal to them. They're also teachers that are great designers, so they bring a kind of design thinking disposition to their work.
Cat Murdoch, that's how it is. So I think every time I listen to this, I find something new. So this pretty much brings us to the end. As I said, resources are on the PPT. So do you have any questions, thoughts, comments on anything that you got from this, which you feel, yes, this was a good idea? Meanwhile, I'm putting the feedback form in the chat. Please fill this. It's always great for me to receive feedback on anything that I do. And meanwhile, it will also be great if each of you can just share, or some of you can share as to what is it that you found, something new which you can implement on Monday itself. Anyone would like to share? Malay?
Basically, in this IBL, we have to, and the student, they have to engage more than the teacher. It means, as per the Sri Aurobindo word, teacher are not the task matter. They are just the guide. They just help the student how to lead their, or how to achieve the progress, or how to do better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you. Always something new comes. Bhojraj, would you like to say something? And then Meena ma'am.
Yes, I have a question, Didi.
Hanji.
So, NCERT course book is reduced, like that chapters have been cut down. So, what we have to do? We have to go through the old book, or we have to go through the new book?
See, where content is concerned, always go with NCERT. Go where the new book. And if chapters are cut down, that's good, because now you will have more time for best practices of integrating strategies in the class. Yeah, that's it. I would be very happy if content is cut down for my classes.
But some contents are like properties of whole numbers. They have cut down that topic in class 6. I am teaching class 6 this year or last year also.
Okay. So I would say, if you feel that it is needed, if you feel that it is something which the children need, then do it, but do it in a recall way. Like, don't go too much into it. Maybe just do as much as it needs by children. Make sense?
Okay, Didi. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone? Otherwise, yes, Meena.
We are already using all this, but sometimes time limit and constraints doesn't allow us to go for all topics rather.
Yeah. So I think with experience, you will probably figure out, when to use how much. Maybe sometimes the whole class can be an inquiry run class. Sometimes maybe a small chunk can be, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, depending on the concept. So many things teachers have to balance, no? It's like concept, time, different types of students. So there, I always believe that teachers are the boss of their classroom. So you can, based on how the situation is, what we are only giving you are different recipes that you can use, and then you are the best judge. Yeah.
Right, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So Chitra ma'am, thank you that she said she learned evaluation, and I am sharing the PDF of this presentation in the WhatsApp group. So you will get it. I'm just doing it like right now. So the last slide
Ma'am,
has
I have not
all
completed the form, but it has been closed somehow. Okay,
Which
let me
form?
just open again.
The feedback form.
Okay, no issue. I will open again.
Okay, let me check. I don't think it's a closed form.
No. I was filling, but I had just opened my speaker. That's why I am on some other page. I'm
Okay,
using
no
my
problem.
mobile.
No problem.
Okay, let me just open. No issue.
Yeah. So it takes a little while for the recording to be processed. Then I'll put it up on my YouTube channel, and then I'll share the link with you in the WhatsApp group, maybe by tonight. So I'm closing the recording now.